Hello and welcome. I hope you are doing well, and I am hopeful that this video will bring you to a more relaxed state. Just a quick disclaimer. This may sound naive of me, but I have recently discovered that there are ads playing on my YouTube videos. If you don't have YouTube Premium, which obviously I don't, I just wanted to say I am very sorry for that. My goal is to have and create a very relaxing video with a dark screen and gentle whispering that will put you to sleep. And so obviously in the middle of that, if it is a loud and bright ad, that completely kind of disrupts that process. So I did look into how to turn that off, but unfortunately I can't, at least to my knowledge, because I am brand new to creating content. I'm obviously not making any kind of profit off of these ads, so I just wanted to say that to you and say that I apologize that happens, and if anyone happens to know a way to go around that for you guys, a setting on my end I can change, please let me know. I'd be happy to do so. So with that out of the way, let's hop into back into our boring book. So again, we are reading The Caring for Our Children. It is the 3rd edition. It's just a big book with national health and safety performance standards and guidelines for early care and education programs. So I'm going to flip to a random page here, and we can get started with some boring reading. Let's see. Sure, we can start on this page. So page 363. This is standard 9.2.3.15, policies prohibiting smoking, tobacco, alcohol, illegal drugs, and toxic substances. Facilities should have written policies addressing the use and possession of tobacco products, alcohol, illegal drugs, prescription medications that have not been prescribed for the user, and unauthorized potentially toxic substances. Policies should include that all of these substances are prohibited inside the facility, on facility grounds, and in any vehicles that transport children at all times. Policies should specify that smoking is prohibited at all times and in all areas used by the children in the program. Smoking is also prohibited in any vehicles that transport children. Policies must also specify that use and possession of all substances referred to above is prohibited during all times when caregivers and teachers are responsible for the supervision of children, including times when children are transported, when playing in outdoor play areas not attached to the facility, and during field trips. Child care centers and large family child care homes should provide information to employees about available drug, alcohol, and tobacco counseling and rehabilitation, and any available employee assistance programs. The rationale: the age, defenselessness, and lack of discretion of the children under care make this prohibition an absolute requirement. The hazards of second-hand and third-hand smoke exposure warrant the prohibition of smoking in proximity of child care areas at any time. Third-hand smoke refers to gases and particles clinging to smokers' hair and clothing, cushions, carpeting, and outdoor equipment after visible tobacco smoke has dissipated. The residue includes heavy metals, carcinogens, and even radioactive materials that young children can get on their hands and ingest, especially if they're crawling or playing on the floor. residual toxins from smoking at times when the children are not using the space can trigger asthma and allergies when the children do use the space. Safe childcare necessitates sober caregivers and teachers. Alcohol and illegal drug use and a misuse of prescription or over-the-counter drugs prevent caregivers and teachers from providing appropriate care to infants and children by impairing motor coordination, judgment, and response time. Off-site use prior to or during work of alcohol, illegal drugs, over-the-counter medications, or prescription medications that have not been prescribed for the user is prohibited. The use of alcoholic beverages in family child care homes after children are not in care is permissible. Comments. The policies related to smoking and use of prohibited substances should be discussed with staff and parents and guardians. Educational materials such as handouts could include information on the health risks and dangers of these prohibited substances and referrals to services for counseling or rehabilitation programs. For family child care home, it is strongly urged that whenever possible, the caregivers and teachers be non-tobacco users because of the role model effect of tobacco users on children. The entire home should be kept smoke-free at all times to prevent exposure of the children who are cared for in these spaces. Here we go. Okay. Standard 9.2.4.6 Use of daily roster during evacuation drills. The center director or his or her designees should use the daily class roster in checking the evaluation and return to a safe space for ongoing care of all children and staff members in attendance during an evacuation drill. In centers caring for more than 30 children enrolled, the center director should assign one caregiver per classroom. The responsibility of bringing the class roster on evacuation drills and accounting for every child and classroom staff at the onset of the safe place. The center director or designee should account for all non-classroom staff, volunteers, and visitors during the evacuation drill process using the program's sign-in, sign-out system. Small and large family home child caregivers and teachers should count or use a daily roster to be sure that all children and staff are safely evacuated and returned to a safe space for ongoing care during an evacuation. The rationale. There must be a plan to account for all the children and adults in a facility at the time of an evacuation. Assigning responsibility to use a roster in a center or child care home ensures that all children and adults are accounted for. Practice accounting for children and adults during evacuation drills makes it easier to do so in an emergency situation. Standard 9.2.4.7 Sign-in, sign-out system. The facility should have a sign-in, sign-out system to track who enters and exits the facility. The system should include name, contact number, relationship to facility like parent, guardian, vendor, guest, and record time in and out. The rationale. This system helps to maintain a secure environment for children and staff. It also provides a means to contact visitors if needed, such as a disease outbreak, or to ensure all individuals in the building are evacuated in case of an emergency. Standard 9.2.4.8 Authorized persons to pick up a child. Names, addresses, and telephone numbers of persons authorized to take a child under care out of the facility should be maintained during the enrollment process, along with clarification documentation of any custody issues or court orders. The legal guardian of the child should be established and documented at this time. If there is an extenuating authorized person is not able to pick up the child, another individual may pick up a child from childcare if they are authorized to do so by the parent or guardian in authenticated communication, such as a witnessed phone conversation in which the caller provides pre-specified identifying information, or writing with pre-specified identifying information. The telephone authorization should be confirmed by a return call to the parent or guardian. The facility should establish a mechanism for identifying a person for whom the parent or guardian have given the facility prior written authorization to pick up their child, such as requiring a photo ID or including a photo of each authorized person in the child's file. If a previously unauthorized individual drops off the child, he or she will not be authorized to pick up the child without first being added to the authorization record. Policy should address how the facility will handle the situation if a parent or guardian arrives who is intoxicated or otherwise incapable of bringing the child home safely, or if a non-custodial parent attempts to claim the child without the consent of the custodial parent. Should an unauthorized individual arrive without the facility receiving prior communication with the parent guardian, the parent guardian should be contacted immediately, preferably privately. If the information provided by the parent or guardian does not match the information and identification of the unauthorized individual, the child will not be permitted to leave the child care facility. If it is determined that the parent guardian is unaware of the individual's attempt to pick up the child, or if the parent guardian has not or will not authorize the individual to take the child from the child care facility, information regarding the individual should be documented and the individual should be asked to leave. If the individual does not leave and his or her behavior is concerning to the child care staff, or if the child is abducted by force, then the police should be contacted immediately with a detailed description of the individual and any other obtainable information, such as a license plate number. Okay. Now we're going to move on to section 9.2.5, transportation policies. 9.2.5.1, transportation policy for centers and large family homes. Written policies should address the safe transport of children by vehicle to or from the facility, including field trips, home pickups and deliveries, and special outings. The transportation policy should include licensing of vehicles and drivers, vehicle selection to safely transport children based on vehicle design and condition, operation and maintenance of vehicles, driver selection, training, supervision, child-staff ratio during transport, accessibility to first aid kit, emergency ID contact, and pertinent health information for passengers, cell phone, or two-way radio, permitted and prohibited activities during transport, backup arrangements for emergencies, use of seatbelt and car safety seat, including booster seats, drop-off and pickup plans, plan for communication between the driver and the child care facility staff, maximum travel time for children, no more than 45 minutes in one trip, procedures to ensure that no child is left in the vehicle at the end of the trip or left unsupervised outside or inside the vehicle during loading and unloading the vehicle, use of passenger vans. The rationale: motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death in children 2 to 14 years of age in the United States. It is necessary for the safety of children to require that the caregiver or teacher comply with requirements governing the transportation of children in care in the absence of the parent guardian. Not all vehicles are designed to safely transport children, especially young children. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recommends that preschool and school-age children should not be transported in 12 or 15 passenger vehicles due to safety concerns. Children have died because they have fallen asleep and been left in vehicles. others have died or been injured when left outside the vehicle when thought to have been loaded into the vehicle. The process of loading and unloading children from a vehicle can distract caregivers and teachers from adequate supervision of children either inside or outside the vehicle. Policies and procedures must account for the management of these risks. Standard 9.2.6.2 Reports of annual audits, monthly maintenance checks of play areas and equipment. Report forms should be used to record the results of the annual audits of the indoor and outdoor play areas and monthly maintenance inspections of play equipment and services. Corrective actions taken to eliminate hazards and reduce the risk of injury should be included in the reports. The forms should be filed in the facility's master file. The forms should be reviewed by the facility annually and should be retained for the number of years required by the state's statute of limitations. The rationale: written records of annual audits of the indoor and outdoor play areas, monthly maintenance inspections, and appropriate corrective action are necessary to reduce the risk of potential injury. Annual review of such records provides a mechanism for periodic monitoring and improvement of equipment and service type and quality. Standard 9.2.6.3 Records of proper installation and maintenance of facility equipment. The facility should maintain all information and records pertaining to the manufacture, installation, and regular inspection of facility equipment. Record keeping on play area equipment is specified in Standard 9.2.6.2. No secondhand equipment should be used in areas occupied by children unless all pertinent data, including checking for recalls and the manufacturer's instructions, can be obtained from the previous owner or from the manufacturer. All equipment should meet ASTM international standards. The rationale: information regarding manufacture, installation, and maintenance of equipment is essential so that the staff can follow appropriate instructions regarding installation, repair, and maintenance procedures. Also, in the event of recalls, the information provided by the manufacturer allows the owner to identify the applicability of the recall to the equipment on hand. Products used in areas occupied by children must have these instructions for identification, maintenance, repair, and reference in case of recall. Standard 9.4.1.10 Documentation of parent-guardian notification of injury, illness, or death in program. The facility should document that a child's parent or guardian was notified immediately in the event of a death of their child, of an injury or illness of their child that required professional medical attention, or if their child was lost or missing. Documentation should also occur noting when law enforcement was notified, which should be immediately. In the event of a death, a child, or a lost missing child, the facility should document in accordance with the state regulations its response to any of the following events: death, serious injury or illness that required medical attention, reportable infectious disease, and any other significant event relating to the health and safety of a child, such as a lost child, a fire, or other structural damage, work stoppage, or closure of the facility. The caregiver or teacher should call 911 to ensure immediate emergency medical support for a death or serious injury, or when they should notify state agencies such as the licensing agency and the local or state health department about any of the above events. The rationale: the licensing agencies should be notified according to the state regulations regarding any of the events listed above, because each involves special action by the licensing agency to protect children, their families, and or the community. illness, or any of the events in item D occur due to negligence by the caregiver or teacher, immediate suspension of the license may be necessary. Public health staff can assist in stopping the spread of the infectious disease if they are notified quickly by the licensing agency or the facility. The action by the facility in response to an illness requiring medical attention is subject to licensing review. A report form that records death, maltreatment, serious injury, or illness is also necessary for providing information of the child's parents, guardians, and primary care provider, other appropriate health agencies, law enforcement agency, and the insurance companies covering the parent, guardians, and the facility. Comments. Guidance on policies for parental notification of child maltreatment reports should be sought from child care health consultants or local child abuse prevention agencies. Surveillance for symptoms can be accompanied easily by using a combined attendance and symptom record. Any symptoms can be noted when the child is signed in, when added notations made during the day when additional symptoms appear. Simple forms for a weekly or monthly period that record data for the entire group help caregivers and teachers spot patterns of illness or an individual child or among the children in the group or center. Multi-copy forms can be used to make copies of an injury report simultaneously for the child's record, for the parent guardian, for the folder that logs all injuries at the facility, and for the licensing agency. Facilities should secure the parent guardian signature on the form and at the time it is presented to the parent guardian. Okay, standard 9.4.1.15 94115. Availability of reports on inspections of fire protection devices. A report of the inspection and maintenance of fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, or other fire prevention mechanisms should be available for review. The report should include the following information: location of the fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, or other equipment, date the inspection was performed by and whom, condition of the equipment, and description of any service provided for the equipment. Fire extinguishers should be inspected semi-annually. Smoke detectors should be inspected monthly. Carbon monoxide detectors should be checked monthly. Inspections should be performed in compliance with local and/or state regulations. A fire extinguisher may lose its effectiveness over time. It should work properly at any time in case it is needed to put out a small fire or to clear an escape path. Since chemicals tend to separate within the canister, maintenance instructions should be followed. Smoke detectors are often powered by batteries and will need to be checked monthly to ensure they are in operating condition. Caregivers and teachers can do the inspections themselves, since many fire extinguishers are equipped with gauges that can be read easily. Standard 9.4.1.16 914.116 Evacuation Shelter-in-Place Drill Record. A record of evacuation drills, shelter-in-place drills, lockdown drills, and facility participation in community evacuation drills should be kept on file. Type of drill, date, and time should be recorded. Routine practice of emergency evacuation plans fosters calm, competent use of the plans in an emergency. Suggested timing for specific drills: fire, monthly; geographically appropriate natural disasters, tornadoes on a monthly basis in tornado season; floods before the flood season; earthquakes every 6 months; hurricanes annually. A shelter-in-place refers to the process of staying where you are and taking shelter rather than trying to evacuate. Next, section 9.4.2, child records. This is standard 9.4.2.1, 9421, contents of child's records. The facility should maintain a file for each child in one central location within the facility. This file should be kept in a confidential manner but should be immediately available to the child's caregivers, teachers, who should have parental guardian consent for access to records, the child's parent guardians, and the licensing authority upon request. The file for each child should include the following: pre-admission and admission agreement signed by the parent guardian at enrollment, initial healthcare professional assessment completed and signed by the child's primary care provider and based on the child's most recent well care visit and containing a complete immunization record as recommended. Immunization and a statement of any special needs with a care plan for how the program should accommodate these special needs. This should be on file, preferably at enrollment, or a 2-week written plan should be provided upon admission. Updated healthcare professional assessments should be completed from the initial assessment filed, except that such assessment should be at the recommendation intervals by the American Academy of Pediatrics until the age of 2 years and annually thereafter. Health history to be completed by the parent or guardian at admission, preferably with staff involvement. Medication record maintained on an ongoing basis by designated staff. Authorization for emergency medical care. For emergency medical dental care, for an example, this form should not be used for routine problems or when the parent can be reached. Any written informed consent forms signed by the parent guardian allowing the facility to share the child's health records with other service providers. The health and safety of individual children requires that information regarding each child in care be kept and made available on a need-to-know basis. Prior informed written consent of the parent guardian is required for service providers, including process for secondary release of records. Consent forms should be in the native language of the parent guardians whenever possible and communicated to them in their normal mode of communication. Foreign language interpreters should be used whenever possible to inform parent guardians about their confidentiality rights. Okay, I think we are going to leave it there for this video. If you've made it to the end, thank you. I hope you're feeling relaxed. I hope your eyelids are maybe feeling heavy and you're ready for some sleep. Or if you just needed a moment to relax, I hope that you got that. I am looking forward to some videos in the future of reading maybe an actual story, so be on the lookout for a bit of a shift in some of these videos from reading a boring book like this one to an actual story. So